The Home Office has been accused of a shocking waste of taxpayers' money as tens of thousands of pounds have been spent on entertaining migrants at a Kent processing facility. And joining us to tell us more is our Homeland Security Editor, Mark White, who uncovered this story. And Mark, you've got more for us, because more evidence of money being splurged, not just on video games, but now on lovely new Union Jack T-shirts for the illegal immigrants.
Yeah, it's an indication really of the wraparound services and costs for catering for these migrants who come across the English Channel illegally. It's not just about the hotels that we hear so much about at £4.5 million a day in terms of the hotel costs. Lots of other services that need to be or are provided for these migrants. But one of the more controversial aspects surrounds the entertainment packages that have been provided for migrants at Manston. This is the processing centre in Kent, where once these small boat migrants arrive in the UK, they're taken to Manston and then they're processed only for 24 or 48 hours maximum. But in that time, there are television sets that have been provided, 14 of them in all of the marquees at Manston, and also we're told that there are video games consoles, 20 of them for Xbox, Nintendo, a PlayStation and alike, that have been provided again at a cost of about £60,000 plus. Now, we've had a statement from the Home Office just in the last few minutes. They've said the majority of the expenditure occurred under the previous government. I suppose that's fair enough. It was used on TV monitors which provide information and instructions for those at Manston. This new government is now reviewing this spend. Well, you know, on that point, it's true that, of course, this didn't just begin in the last year. This has been operational, and the freedom of information we've got is from 2022. So, yes, it was brought in under the Conservative government, but it does continue, and that's why the Home Office statement adds there that they are reviewing it, because there's a great deal of concern that, you know, this is seen as rewarding bad behaviour, that the second you step off a boat, having survived for many months in a tent around northern France or wherever else you've come from on that trek without a TV or video games, you've managed quite nicely. Well, another aspect in this wraparound service is the clothing. Migrants are given clothing, again, maybe understandably, because they, you know, a lot of them are filthy and disease ridden, having come from living rough for such a long period of time. But should the British taxpayer be funding the clothing? And that clothing will include the likes of these natty T-shirts with Union Jack flags on them. Just take a look at this video. And the thing about these videos, as we've said before, Martin, the people smugglers use them. They're pushed out all around the globe, telling people that come to the UK, you can dance in your taxpayer-funded hotel room with clothing provided by the UK.
Have you been getting a load of spam in your email recently? What about random calls? It's really annoying, isn't it? Data brokers are out there collecting your personal information. Anything from your email, your full name, your address, and even your political affiliation. Cyber criminals can even use AI to mimic the voices of friends and family to trick people into sending them money. And it gets even worse. People out there are getting huge loans taken out in their names without even knowing about it. But don't worry, because the sponsor of this video, Incogni, can help. They reach out to the data brokers on your behalf and request that your information is removed from their databases. Incogni continues to make sure that your data is removed automatically from the internet via repeated removal requests. So, how can you get started? Well, step one, hit the link in the description. Create an Incogni account and tell us whose data you'd like removed. Step two, grant Incogni the right to work on your behalf. Step three, sit back, relax, and watch Incogni work. They will update consistently, so you know when your data has been removed. Incogni is risk-free for 30 days, so you can try it for yourself and you'll get a free refund if the service isn't for you. So take back your personal data today with Incogni. Use the code GBNews using the link in the description below and you'll get 60% off an annual payment plan.
Free video games, free T-shirts for asylum seekers. They don't sort this out soon, Mark White. It is going to be game over for the political class. Thank you, Mark White. Another sensational exclusive. Now let's move the conversation on. I'm delighted to say I'm joined in the studio in Westminster by the Reform UK for Runcorn and Helsby, of course, that's Sarah Pochin. Sarah, welcome to the show. Pleasure to have your company. Could I please start by asking for your take on Sir Keir Starmer's return hubs, the containment centres in Albania today? Already the Albanian Premier said, well, we're not even going to have one.
Keir Starmer has looked utterly incompetent all week on the subject of immigration. You know, he started out on Monday with this hyped-up paper, white paper on immigration. There's nothing in it. What we need in order to return these illegal immigrants, to stop the endless appeal system, is to leave the ECHR. That's not in that white paper. It's not happening under Keir Starmer. So what's going to change? Absolutely, I think the rest of it is just waffle, and we're going to make sure that they all can speak English, and we're going to do this. It's all nonsense. We know it's not going to happen. We have to have laws in place where we can enact actually deporting these people, and that means coming out of the ECHR. Only Reform's going to do that, and that was Monday. And then, of course, today, how embarrassing for Britain that our Prime Minister has gone to Albania to announce this deportation hub and this agreement, only to get there in front of all the cameras and Albania say, oh, hang on a minute, we're not doing that. Yeah, we might have done it with Italy, but that was a totally different set of circumstances. You know, Italy are our neighbours. We needed to have some, agreement with Italy. But we're not extending it to you, Great Britain. You know, how ridiculous. We look incompetent on the world stage, and it's shocking, to be honest. I'm almost speechless, which is rare for a politician and very rare for me, at the utter level of incompetence that the government has shown this week, from Monday through to Thursday now, aren't we? And it's just not getting any better. It's getting worse. And
what's really incredible about this is that a lot of people in Sir Keir Starmer's party don't like any of this themselves.
Yep.
Diane Abbott, of course, back in Labour now, calling this a harmful distraction. Amnesty International don't like it. You'd expect people like Suella Braverman to be having a pop, and, you know, your own colleague Lee Anderson, a watered-down Rwanda. But there's an issue here, and that is those on the left think it's too right-wing, and perhaps those who are on the right wing, if you like, don't particularly believe that Keir Starmer's conviction is in it. Do you think anything is cutting through? We're still seeing the numbers go up. It's now over 12,699 dinghies arrived this year. We're on track for another record year.
Look, the public aren't fools. They can see that this is Keir Starmer floundering around here now. He doesn't know which way to take this policy. He clearly has problems in his own party with, as you've given examples of, people that don't agree with this new stance that he's making. He's sounding more reform than reform these days, on some of these things and some of his rhetoric. And his party are split on this. And it will be a real issue for them if they're divided over this. But the public are not fools. They can see what's happening. They know that he's grasping at straws because he's trying to keep up with reform. We are powering through with clear policies on this issue, and he doesn't have any, and he's looking, utterly incompetent.
He would say, of course, he inherited a right old mess from the Conservatives. He would say he hasn't had enough time yet to put this into action. Let's move on to those videos we played a short while ago there from Mark White. I wonder if we can call them up again just so viewers can see on your screens now. There's pictures of freshly arrived asylum seekers in luxury hotels, resplendent in Union Jack T-shirts, looking like they're on a magical mystery tour. Pictures there of them outside Buckingham Palace, pictures of them, there we see on your screen, pictures of them outside the Etihad Stadium, that's the Manchester City ground in Manchester, doing things that many young British kids would love to do and don't have the opportunity. Sarah Pochin, this is all laid on at taxpayers' expense. This kind of evidence absolutely bores the blood of British taxpayers who are paying for all of this.
Exactly. And I look at this and I feel so angry and so frustrated on behalf of my constituents in Runcorn and Helsby, people that voted me in who feel that this is so unfair. Reform came through in Runcorn and Helsby. I have no doubt about it, because people now feel that they are suffering because, public services are suffering, their standard of living is suffering because of the money we are wasting. And looking at these pictures, they're clean, they're warm, they're clothed nicely. They're getting all these trips. My constituents can't, of Runcorn particularly, they can't afford to take their children down to Buckingham Palace. There's some real deprivation there. And this is what they're seeing. This is where they're seeing their hard-earned taxpayers' money going. How do people feel? No wonder people are saying enough is enough. This Labour government, they could have stopped this. They could stop it overnight. But here we are seeing these migrants in new T-shirts. OK, just because we put a Union Jack on their T-shirt, does that mean that suddenly they're British? Of course it doesn't. We know what's going on here. This is propaganda. This is optics. Well, the British people, as I've said time and time again, do not underestimate the level of anger, the level of unfairness that people feel. And this sort of thing is just exacerbating it.
OK, Sarah Pochin, the Reform UK MP for Runcorn and Helsby, thank you very much for joining us in the studio. Pleasure to have your company. Let's get a quick reaction now from the former Labour spokesperson, James Matthewson. James, welcome to the show. Left, right and centre, nobody seeming to like the music coming out of the Labour Party HQ today about the return hubs in Albania, or not in Albania, because the Prime Minister said there he won't even have one of them.
Yeah, of course no one likes it, Martin. I mean, this is not the ground that the Labour Party is meant to be covered, all right? Like, if you try and appease the side of politics that you're not from and that your so-called values, if Keir Starmer hasn't left, let's be honest, if your so-called core values, you're going against them to try and appease the other side of politics, which seems perfectly represented by Sarah Pochin, if I'm being honest. She's just said Keir Starmer sounded more reformed than reform. And that's horrifying to me. Somebody who's gone out, knocked thousands of doors for the Labour Party, campaigned my whole adult life for the Labour Party and worked for them, and to hear somebody say that they're sounding more like the Reform Party than the Reform Party, and for that person to be a Reform UK MP, it's absolutely horrifying to me. Why are we in this situation? What does Keir Starmer stand for? What are his values? What does he represent? Because I'm getting phone calls every week, Martin, from friends saying, you told me to vote for this guy. You told me to vote Labour. And I'm a trans person. I felt safer under David Cameron because he was more socially liberal. I'm somebody who supports migration from the EU and from different parts of the country. I thought Starmer was pro that. If you move away from any of the values you're supposed to represent, you please no one. And that's what we're seeing here.
James Matthewson, very, very eloquently put. Thank you very much for joining us on the show today. It's a pleasure to have your company. Thank you.